It's late afternoon, and you're moving through tall grass with your family. The kind of grass that hides everything below waist height. A moment ago, the world was loud. Insects buzzing. Birds calling from every direction. A troop of monkeys arguing somewhere in the canopy above you. Normal noise. Living noise. And then, without any warning, it stops. Not fades, stops. Like someone reached out and switched the world off. No birds. No insects. No monkeys. Just your own breathing and the wind moving through grass that suddenly feels much taller than it did a minute ago. Here's what your body already knows, even if your mind hasn't caught up yet. Every animal in this landscape can sense something you can't see. And they've all just told you the same thing at the same time. Something dangerous is close, and it's already decided where it's going. Most people assume our ancestors survived by listening for danger. A snapped branch. A growl. A rustle in the brush. They're wrong. The loud warning was never the one that killed you, because by the time you heard it, the predator had already made its move. The sound our ancestors actually feared, the one that meant run or freeze right now, wasn't a sound at all. It was silence. The alarm system you never built. You did not evolve alone. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans lived inside a web of other species. And every one of them was constantly broadcasting information. Whether they meant to or not, vervet monkeys have different alarm calls for different predators, one for eagles, one for leopards, one for snakes. Ground-feeding birds freeze the instant a hawk's shadow crosses open ground. Insects stop their chorus when something large and unfamiliar moves through their space. Put that together, and the savanna, the forest, the riverbank, wasn't silent by nature. It had a constant hum, a soundtrack of 1,000 small creatures. Scientists call this the acoustic landscape. And when a predator entered an area, every species inside it responded at once. The birds stopped, the insects stopped, the monkeys stopped. Researchers have a name for this invisible pressure predators put on an environment, the landscape of fear. For an early human standing inside it, silence wasn't empty. It was every creature nearby casting the same vote. Something is here. Why loud warnings? Arrive too late movies. Get this backwards. Tension builds with a growl right before the attack. In reality, that almost never happens. Big cats are ambush predators. Their entire strategy depends on getting close before you know they exist. A predator that announces itself with noise has already failed. Real predators move using cover, wind direction, and patience, closing the distance in near total silence, which means the moment you actually hear a predator, a branch cracking under real weight, you're no longer in the planning stage of an attack. You're inside it. The gap between hearing danger and danger reaching you can be seconds, sometimes less. So the only warning that could actually save you had to arrive earlier, and it had to come from something that noticed the threat before you did. That something was everything else living around you. If this is the kind of thing that keeps you thinking after the video ends, subscribe now. This channel digs up one hidden survival mechanism like this every week. Now back to the grass, because the silence hasn't broken yet. A skill with no fossils. For a long time this idea was mostly theoretical. Then anthropologists spent real time with the last hunter-gatherer societies on Earth. And theory became something you could watch. Among the sand trackers of the Kalahari, researchers have documented something extraordinary. Expert trackers don't just follow footprints. They read the whole landscape as a moving picture, and a huge part of that picture is sound, or its sudden absence. A tracker will register a silent patch of birdsong the same way you'd register a red light. Not a feeling. Specific learned information. Something moved through here, and the birds haven't decided it's safe yet. This skill leaves nothing behind for archaeologists to dig up. No tool, no residue, no bone to date. For most of human history, it existed everywhere and left evidence nowhere. We only know it existed because a handful of societies never stopped using it. what silence does inside you back in the grass. Your body is already responding. When sudden silence falls where there should be noise, the vagus nerve shifts your heart rate and breathing almost instantly. Pupils dilate. Muscles tense, ready to freeze or explode into motion. This isn't a conscious decision, it's the freeze response, older than conscious thought, built for exactly this moment, when making a sound yourself could be the fatal mistake, and it still lives in you. Ever walked into a room where the fridge or a sea suddenly cuts off, and felt a strange disproportionate jolt of alertness before your rational brain catches up? That's the same ancient circuitry your ancestors relied on. Standing in grass exactly like this, reading it together, silence wasn't just an individual reaction, it was collective. Anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer bands have documented silent hand signals used precisely for this moment. Because replacing silence with panic talk gave a predator a second chance to confirm exactly where you were. Single person who mistook silence for safety, who spoke normally, let a child run ahead, could break the fragile advantage of the entire group. Which means every ancestor of yours was, on some level, part of a group where enough people read quiet as danger, often enough for that group to survive. When the silence breaks back in the grass, a single bird far off finally calls out, and the whole soundscape rushes back at once. Insects, other birds, the monkeys resuming their argument. Like a held breath finally let out, you never saw the predator. You may never know exactly what moved through that grass, but an invisible network of animals you couldn't see gave you accurate, life-saving information, and something inside you knew exactly how to receive it. Why? This should change how you see your ancestors. We picture ancient survival as strength, spears, fire, muscle against claw. But correctly reading an empty soundscape required none of that. It required patience, pattern recognition built over a lifetime, and trust in a communication network made of species that had no idea they were helping you. The families that got it wrong didn't get a second lesson. Which means every one of your ancestors, going back further than anyone can count, read silence as danger correctly enough times for hundreds of thousands of years for you to exist. So next time an ordinary room goes suddenly, inexplicably quiet, and you feel that small, illogical prickle before your rational mind waves it away, don't dismiss it. That's not a glitch. That's an inheritance still quietly doing its job.